back, everyone, to Spooky Japan Podcast. Today we have a special guest, Dustin with Moonlight Monster Media. How you doing today?
Good. How are y'all? Good morning.
Good, yeah, good morning. Yes, definitely. So what brought you into the paranormal?
The paranormal, I would say from a young age, uh, it just kind of interested me. I was always sort of drawn to like the spookier library books, like in elementary school, the ghost stories, classic monster, universal monsters, Bigfoot, all that, stuff like that. I'm not really sure, what would trigger that interest, but it was just kind of seemed like it was always there from an early age.
Did anything happen to you paranormal wise that really got you more interested, or it's just one of those you love the scary stories kind of thing?
Yeah, it was just, I always liked Halloween a whole lot. I was just, always interested, and I think it just got my attention for some reason. But I didn't really have, uh, I guess, paranormal instances when I was younger, but I have since throughout my life now. Things I can't explain. Probably some things that were paranormal, that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah, definitely. So that's usually how everyone got interested is something paranormal happened to them, especially when they're younger, or some people when they get started older too. Just things you can't explain start happening, and that's when people start looking into the paranormal. So, where has been your favorite place to investigate so far?
So far, as far as investigations go, like going to investigate on purpose, that is a new element for me, and that was primarily just due to trying to make a couple of documentaries. But I've always been drawn to just hanging out in like old spooky places. Like I've traveled, to Salem, Massachusetts, Savannah, Georgia, a few times, St. Augustine, a lot of older places, and I'll do historical tours. I'll do, the ghost tours. But recently, we did an investigation in the Drish House in Tuscaloosa, and went in on purpose with cameras and microphones and all that, and actually picked up some activity there.
You had a documentary that came out, or you also have one that's coming out as well?
Yes, the I have a movie that came out that's not really to be taken very serious, about Bigfoot Sasquatch sightings. I made up a little small town, and I had some people that I know play characters, and we did like their stories with their encounters, and most of them are sort of funny or a little bit silly because I initially got started. I'm a musician, and I was recording some tracks, and I don't know, maybe about 2017, 18. I watch a lot of I watch a lot of documentaries on Prime and stuff like that about Bigfoot and paranormal and mysterious stuff. So I thought, it'd be cool to have some music featured on something like that.
Oh, yeah,
And
definitely.
I started to reach out to, I would look at the credits and find directors, writers, and I would start to spam, basically just copy and paste email to see if I could get like 5 seconds of music featured in anything. And it never worked out, but I got some good advice from a couple people. Then later, me and a friend started making funny reels and stuff, and my editing skills got a little better. And one day I just thought I would attempt to make a movie. So that was the first movie, Steed's Ridge, and but now I'm actually working on a couple serious documentaries.
And that they can find that on what I saw on Tubi.
Tubi and Zombie media video on demand. Zombie Media, Thomas Markham is actually the distributor of that. So you can find it on his platform or Tubi right now.
Okay. Yeah, I saw it was on Tubi. I wasn't sure if anyone could find it anywhere else if they didn't have Tubi.
Yeah, and it's I basically based it in like 1982, so all the video it's supposed to be kind of like a lost video from a government agency doing an investigation, and the tape's kind of found and restored, so it looks grainy, and the audio's lo-fi, and it's got glitches and all that. So, but it's not a serious. I don't know if people even have taken it serious. I'm not sure, but it's not meant to be taken serious. It was just basically an attempt to see if I could accomplish something. It was just a goal I set and just went for it.
Yeah. What is the documentaries that you have coming out in the future?
I am about maybe 75% done with what I ended up doing. I was going to cover Bigfoot sightings, paranormal, UFOs, and like, around where I'm at, a lot of people say they see panthers, big cats,
Really?
and the environmental agencies will deny that, but there are so many witnesses. So I started to collect and, you know, document and video these witnesses, and I've made music and I've got reels of nature, out. And I did a couple of light investigations. Well, I ended up with so much material that wasn't going to fit into one film. So I took kind of a poll on my Facebook page to see how people wanted me to divide it up. And we came to the conclusion that the first one's going to be about Bigfoot and big cats and panthers. So I'm waiting to get with a couple of people to get their encounters videoed and edited up. And I should be able to release that fairly soon. And the second part, there'll be a volume two, and that's going to cover our paranormal investigations, which to me were actually a lot more of a success because we had activity. And I fully, at the time of filming, didn't expect to have anything happen, and it did. There's actually a scene where a couple of the guys are with me, and we're in an old cemetery, and the meter starts peaking to red, and it just seems like something's going on. And I'm like, wow, this is really going off. And the guy said, well, what did you expect to happen in a cemetery at night? And I said, nothing, because you know, I didn't.
I'm in cemeteries. It's a hit and miss on cemeteries. A lot of cemeteries I won't get anything, but there's some that just you may get good activity in.
We went to two different ones in the same night, and we had a digital recorder in the first one where most of the filming is actually done. The EMF meter actually went off a pretty good bit around certain graves, but I didn't have any audio. We went to a smaller, more secluded cemetery,
Hmm.
and that night when I got home, I put in both my headphones max volume and just played from the beginning, and actually had a voice, a EVP on there, and it really kind of gave me chills. It's kind of scary sounding, especially the content of what it sounded like it said.
Yeah, that's happened to me. That's why recording it's also important because you might not catch it in a moment, but once you do the playback, then obviously you can hear the responses. That's just crazy how that can work to me.
Yeah, and I went back because, like, I believe in spiritual things for sure, but I'm I guess more of an optimistic skeptic. So I really want to see or hear things for myself,
Right.
because I'm not saying. I mean, I think there's something to a lot of stuff, but sometimes people to me are untrustworthy. So for me to actually have picked something up, it was authentic. It kind of made me think. I started to think a little different, and this all happened. This is all recent, because I was working on a documentary and actually, So what I was going to say, and I got very sidetracked, was as a skeptic, I went back and looked at the video that matched the audio to make sure neither one of the guys with me had spoke under their breath or had said something that maybe I hadn't noticed before, and everybody had their mouth shut and we were just walking.
Mm.
So what is are you more into paranormal or more into like cryptids like the Bigfoot or UFOs or
I would rank UFOs last to get that out of the way. I am more interested if I was going to, I don't know, I change moods. There was a period where I watched a lot of ghost shows, and then there's periods where I go for cryptids. Maybe I I enjoy cryptid movies a little better, but it's a little. I believe in the paranormal more than I would cryptids, I guess, sort of, because I've had more paranormal things happen to me. I haven't ever saw it, witnessed any cryptids for myself.
yeah,
That's
that's a
what's
little
usually the
harder.
case. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little harder to get anything from them. Usually from what we're told is they have to start trusting you before even if you can even glance at them and see them.
I would really like to think that there's a Sasquatch out there, and I know one of the women in my documentary, she would kill me for even saying that I didn't, but she is a big influence on why I'm interested in that, because it's my best friend's mom. And when we were kids, we used to go over to their house, and they would put us in the back of a truck. And our roads up here used to be dirt; they're not anymore. And we'd ride up and down the dirt road, and she'd tell us all these local legends about Bigfoot jumping in like the truck of like her great granddad's truck at night. And back then they didn't have a word for it because there wasn't any internet, or the legend of Boggy Creek and all that wasn't out. So they were kind of describing this thing like it had like the body of a bear and the face like a man, because in this community they didn't really have a word for that yet. Like it's widespread now, but rural Alabama and like probably like 1930 or 40 maybe, you know they didn't really have the word for that, I don't guess. And she would tell us those stories, and that always interested me a lot.
Yeah, we have so she Irene is more in Tokyo. I'm more in Nagasaki. In Nagasaki, we have more cryptids and urban legends like that in the area compared to Tokyo. But that's because, and some scientists, they believe their theory is because 2 hours away from me, 2 hours that way, and then 2 hours, then 4 to 5 hours north of me. 2 hours, yeah, 2 hours for me, we had the Nagasaki bombing. Then 4 or 5 hours up north of me, we had the Hiroshima bombings. So I think the radiation from both of them mixed with either humans or animals and created more cryptids.
Hmm.
But we don't have in Japan. We don't have like I know in America there is Sasquatch hunters who go out there and try and find and study them. We don't have anything like that here, so it's just one of those things where scientists are just like, "This is what we believe, but we're not going to go learn more."
Okay. Yeah, I've always found Japan interesting. One of these days, maybe that would be a place that I get to visit. I know my son, we talked about this earlier. He's 10, and I told him I was going on this podcast, and he said, it would be really cool to go to Japan. He really likes geography. That's his thing. And Japan is one of his places too that he would like to see.
Japan is funny when it comes to the paranormal because the ghosts down here do their own thing compared to up in Irene, where they're completely different. Then they're even more different, have their own thing going on north of Japan. So wherever you're in Japan, it's gonna be something different, and that's always funny to me. But here also in Japan, paranormal is a taboo thing to even talk about. So that's also why we don't have a lot of people studying it. Like Irene can tell you, it, yeah, Irene is a clairvoyant, but only two people in her everyday real life knows of what she does. Because it's more of the people look at you like you're crazy
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
if you come out and say, "Yeah, I'm into the paranormal."
So, were you clairvoyant from a young age, your whole life, or was that something that grew on you later?
I knew I always had it, but it grew on me afterwards. I knew I always could feel it. I could, I couldn't see it, but I could feel it a lot. And as I got older, it came much faster with a punch, you know. But yeah, it it was something that you don't talk about. My family, I could talk about it. My mother, I could talk about it because my mother was one of those also. But my children are also. But you don't. But outside the family, you don't talk about it.
So this, if you don't mind me asking questions, I mean, I don't want
Oh, you can ask any questions you
to.
want.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I was just, this interests me. I've never, I guess, spoken to someone who was clairvoyant. So these it comes in waking though, or is it dreams when you're asleep, awake,
Both,
both?
and sometimes they just come to me, and I said the way that you're supposed to act is that you're supposed to create boundaries. Not everyone's allowed to come and talk to you or visit you. Um, your boundaries are where you find a safe place, and they're only to come to you when you allow them to come to you. So they're not really allowed to be there, and it's just something that you learn with experience, and other people who are the same way will tell you the same thing. So you have to make sure that you're okay or safe to talk to them, because you really don't want them bothering you all the time, because it's really not healthy. And it can be dangerous to certain spirits are not good spirits, okay? So you have to be very careful which ones you pick and choose to talk to,
Okay.
especially in this country. In this country where I am, we get more suicide victims, or we get more the ones who are jealous, angry, everything else on top of it. That's all in a nutshell, right? So
Mhm.
you have to be extremely careful which ones you talk to, which ones you don't, and you learn by experience who you can be safe with and who you can't be safe with.
Mm. Before I came on here, I knew I was coming on here. I'd sat around this afternoon reading some, trying to see what Japanese folklore and some of the
Mm-hmm.
legends were, because I'm very familiar with European or
Mm-hmm.
American legends, but not so much Japanese. And I did notice that theme. There was a lot of, uh, it seemed like jealous couple, suicides, murders, deformations, and
Mm-hmm.
revenge spirits.
Yeah,
A lot of the stories.
and there's a lot of yokai. Yokai is a spirit that is very they like to create trouble for other people, okay? And
Okay.
they're really hard to get rid of. So you have to be very careful about how you keep your house. Make sure you don't have any dirt in your house. Make sure you don't walk in your house with shoes and stuff like that. So it's like rule number one, rule number 20 right afterwards. Then you got rule number 50, and it's on all unwritten rules. So you have to be very careful about how you interact with people, and when you go to a funeral, this is how you do it. And when you come home, before you go in your house, this is how you also cleanse yourself. You don't want to bring anything with you. And, stuff like that is just unwritten anywhere, but you learn by your elders or other people around you will teach you that. So there's no book on how to, right? So we learn by our elders, we learn by other people, and we learn how to keep ourselves safe. Can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do this. It's like a lot of can't do's, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, yeah, one whole book of rules,
Oh,
unwritten rules.
is that then is that where the tradition of taking off the shoes before entering the home came from, or?
It's more of it's outside dirt is obviously because your shoes have outside dirt. They'd
Mm-hmm.
rather not have like the outside dirt all over their home because they try and
Yeah,
keep it clean. One of the rituals for New Year's is before New Year's Day, you have to deep clean your house.
yeah.
You have to deep clean it so much that they move every piece of furniture, including like the stoves, the refrigerators, deep
Hmm.
clean every little space in there. So bringing in outside dirt is just
Yeah. And you have to deep clean yourself too before New Year's also. So you have to everyone has to take a shower or a bath and get rid of all the dirt. And then you do one load of laundry before New Year's too.
mm,
Before midnight, actually.
Mm.
it's bad luck to do it on New Year's Day.
Yeah. You're not supposed to you're not supposed to do any work on New Year's Day. You're supposed to relax on New Year's Day.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a
Um
lot of it's even though it's not paranormal's not spoken here, there is a lot of traditions here that involve the
Paranormal.
ancestors. Like there's a lot of
Mhm.
people will even have shrines in their house to their ancestors or whoever passed away. Like if someone in your
Yeah.
family passed away, you might have a shrine in your house dedicated to that person.
Mm-hmm.
And to your animals and to your pets if you have any. Yeah, I have two. I have one to my pets and I have one to my mother. It's in my house also. So yeah, you feed them every day, every morning. You give them new food and new water to drink. And if it's a pet, you give them crunchy food and a little bowl of crunchy food and some water. It's just so traditional that you do. Make sure they're fed, make sure they're watered well, so they can eat and sleep. It's just it's a morbid thing that other people think, but it's what we do every day.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's just I think a lot of it revolves around death in Japan. So you find they keep the dead happy, and so they don't come and get angry with you for
Mm-hmm.
anything, and you appease the dead. Yeah, and unfortunately, my birthday is the Day of the Dead, is July 16th. So I have to make sticky rice with sweet bean paste and on my birthday. You're supposed to clean the graves at midnight. At midnight, uh, you have to carry paper lanterns with a candle in it. You go to the grave, you make sure the graves are nice and clean, and you feed and you put food offerings of food for the dead and incense and water.
So these are these traditions still strong and respected even in the younger generation to this day?
Yeah, because everyone takes the whole family does it.
Yeah, it's not like a lot of places here in the U.S. At least in my eyes, it seems like a lot of traditions and respect. Sacred things are not as taken as serious anymore as they maybe used to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole family together thing to do,
Mhm.
and everyone goes home. If they work in the city, the whole family goes home to the country, to their ancestors, or to their mother and father, or to their aunts and uncles' place, and they all do it together as a family.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not an individual thing. It's like the whole family together has to do it together, and eat together and they all sleep together when they're together.
It was very family oriented
Hmm. But it's the most scariest month because the spirits come home.
in July.
And you have to feed them. Well, here in Tokyo, it's July. Where Amanda is, it's August the 26th, 27th, 28th. And yeah, it's the most freakiest month because the air is thick. You could cut it with a knife. You could see the spirits right in front of your face like this, and they're demanding you feed them, and demanding that you give them water, or even some booze or beer or whatever,
Hmm.
whatever they like to drink, and you put a cigarette out if they like to smoke, stuff like that. You do, and it's the most scariest month because all the spirits come home to be with the family, and then afterwards you have to chase them out and tell them to go home because you don't want them in your house anymore. So you go, get out of here, get out of here, get out of here, like thing, and make them go after they eat and drinking a lot or smoked a cigarette or whatever. You just have to chase them out of your home because
Mm.
you don't want them in your home anymore afterwards.
I've heard that a lot from certain people. I think that do paranormal more often,
Hmm.
and like us doing investigations, going in the old house that's supposed to be severely haunted, or going in the cemetery. Everybody tells us, "Hey, be careful when you
Yeah,
leave, and make sure you ask that nothing come with you."
yeah.
Yeah, the cigarette thing makes me think of one of my actual experiences, though.
Hmm.
I worked in a plant
Hmm.
at night. I was on night shift for 2.5 years, and there would be two of us there. Um, there was an old building. The new plant is built around an older plant, so there's still some older structures in the center of the
Hmm.
property. And I like to get out and walk a lot. At back,
Hmm.
I had the time, and there was a certain space where I would go by, and it happens to be building number 13.
Mm.
I would smell cigar smoke, not cigarettes, but
Mm.
cigars sometimes,
Hmm.
certain nights. And I had a really bright flashlight. And I'm the kind of person who's going to search because no one's supposed to be in here on this property. So
Hmm.
I'm hitting the bright light anywhere in the vicinity, every corner, every building, every door to make sure no one's in here with us. So
Hmm.
never saw a person, but I could smell the cigar smoke. Well, there was a in a different building. There was a woman who worked there at the time. She would come in earlier and start her process about 4 o'clock in the morning, 4:30. And me being nights, I like to drink coffee, and she made coffee every morning. So I would go up there. Me and her were friends, and she'd brew the coffee, and we'd sit and talk about whatever. Well, one day, after some, see, I never told anyone I was smelling cigar smoke because it's not something professionally. You don't want everything. Oh, he's crazy. Don't work with him at night, or he's scared, or whatever. You don't want that at work professionally. So one day we're in her office and we're drinking coffee, and she's been there a good while, over 25 years or so, and she starts talking about older employees who are either passed away or no longer there. And she said, there used to be this guy, and I can't think of his name. Every day on his break out at building 13, he would sit on the steps and smoke a cigar. And when she said that, I was like, oh my gosh. I said, okay, well, look, I don't want you to think I'm crazy, but I'm about to tell you something because of what you just said. I said, what if I told you that sometimes when I'm out here walking around in the middle of the night, I smell cigar smoke at this building? And she was like, well, all I can tell you is there was a guy who has passed away who used to work here, who used to smoke cigars over there on his break. Never, it, it was a little more evidential to me because we'd never had that conversation, and it just randomly came up one day, and it tied into what I was dealing with out there.
You're
See, I didn't mute it. It muted all by itself. You're gonna
I
find that
wondered. I
happens.
went to go on mute you, and it said guest muted. I'm like, okay.
What? Yeah. Did it creep you out or anything weird like that?
I can when I first started working the shift at night like that, that never creeped me out so much as I was more concerned about like a vagrant person, like a just somebody passing through or somebody who was up to no good. That scared me more than the thought of
Mm,
a paranormal event. But yeah, when I first started working the night shift, there were certain areas that gave off this feeling of fear a little bit. You'd get a chill on your neck, or you'd
mm,
pause and kind of want to look around. But it was kind of like my funny way of, I would go out into the plant to make my round and I'd speak aloud. I didn't really know that I believed there was really a spirit there or not, but I would say something like, but it felt strong. So I would say, okay, buddy, look, I'm just here to do my job. I'm coming to do my job. I don't care if you're here. Let's just not bother each other. And I would just do my work. And,
mm-hmm.
you know,
So you announced yourself before you did anything. Um, I'm wondering if something bad happened a long time ago, or what? Is it a dangerous job that you do, or is it just a regular
it's
putting
a,
pieces
it's a,
together?
it's a wastewater treatment plant. So there are a lot of dangers. High voltage electricity, poisonous gases, uh,
Mm,
drowning hazards, slipping hazards. But I don't
mm,
know that. Let me think about it. I don't know if I've ever heard of anyone actually passing away there. But now the um, the land that it's built on, is all land is old, but I think it had been probably previously inhabited at some point in time.
mm,
I'm not sure. Maybe it's the energy from the moving waters.
mm-hmm. That could happen too, because the water creates energy itself, and the land where it's sitting on that could create energy too. Land and body of water. Mm-hmm. And if you get limestone or anything like that,
Hmm.
that creates energy too
I've
underneath.
heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
I don't know if there's limestone under. I mean, we in Alabama there is a lot of limestone locations, but I don't know if there's any over there. But I know there's a lot of. It was a wetland, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of moving water. And there was a guy who was found, and now I'm thinking about it. There was a guy who was found dead, uh, 7 8 years ago near the train tracks. He'd fallen off of the train right outside of the fence,
Mm.
and
That,
he was from about an hour away. So I guess he had hopped the train and maybe fell off or tried to jump off and didn't make it.
yeah, that could be dangerous. I mean, it's just an interesting scene for something spooky that could happen, right?
Oh yeah, it can
Um,
be a spooky place at night.
ooh, that's interesting too.
I, I, I still work there. I left for a couple years, but now I'm back. But I don't work at night anymore. Very rarely. 'Cause I sit in the office most of the time. But,
Usually, if it's inhabited with spirits, it doesn't matter day or night, they'll come out. There's no time periods that they do come out. They'll come out whenever they want to come out.
hmm
Yeah.
I'd heard that on I don't know if it was a show or a podcast or something I listened to. These people investigate in the daytime
Mm,
because they said it doesn't matter. Kind of like what
mm,
you just said. They said day or night. If
mm.
there's activity, there's activity.
Is there any freaky place that you've been to that you say, "Oh, that's too freaky for me"?
Um, hmm. Not too much. You know, we did this investigation in this old historical house,
Mm-hmm.
the Drish house, back a couple months ago, and I had like maybe some slight apprehensions ahead of that going into that, not knowing,
Mm-hmm.
like thinking to myself, like, what if I go in here and like something for real, like really crazy happens, and how are we going to deal with this? Because there's like the lady who owns it was telling us, and she showed us the picture. They do like wedding venue. It's like a venue now. They rent it out or whatever. But she was showing us a picture after an event where they had locked up, and I think two of the women who worked there were leaving. They took a picture together in front of the yard. Well, in the background,
Mm-hmm.
up in the window of the house, you can see this pale face behind the curtains just looking. And when we went into that room, because she told us which room it was, she said, do
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want up there. So we took the EMF meters in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it was pinging the red like consistently. Like in that room, that was the strongest presence. But on the digital recorder, I think I've got one more tape to go through on that, but I didn't hear anything other than that, like maybe two or three doors down, we went to this room and the door was shut.
Mhm.
And the guy who went with me, he opens the door, and in my headphones, when I listen back, you can hear this voice say, "Shut the door."
Usually, if you get feelings, usually you should listen to yourself and make aware that you do feel it, and that there's something there that may not be to your likings.
Mm-hmm.
So you should listen to yourself all the time and always keep in check with yourself, saying, okay, I feel this. Okay, now I have to be careful, or something's telling me to be careful, or something's telling me to watch out. It may not be what I like, it may not be what I want to feel, but I have to be careful. And it's like a second voice that's coming onto you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know that maybe there's something there that I may not like, or maybe it's something that's not quite right.
Your inner voice knows something you don't, kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's an it's enough to me that, as I said earlier, some of this was starting out as entertainment purposes, music, and just the thrill of making videos, having fun with my friends. So I've done a couple of these investigations, and it's something I've deeply considered maybe not doing anymore. I've got my videos, and I may go ahead and make the documentary, but it feels like something that's not to really be played around with, and
Mm-hmm.
the cryptid stuff doesn't do that. I did a couple little cryptid investigations, I guess you could call. I'll do those alone. I'll get my flashlight and I'll go out in the woods or whatever. But like the
Mm-hmm.
paranormal stuff, that hits a little closer to home, and with some things that's happened, and truly believing and knowing that there's more to that, it
Mm-hmm.
seemed like something to mess around with too much.
It's not to mess around. It's just to be careful of where you go and what you do, and always be respectful of what you do. That's all.
And that's what we did. We
Mm-hmm.
When we do these things, it's not like the stuff on TV where people in there banging and hollering and yelling and speak
Mm-hmm.
to us. We go in just like we're talking now. I'll take me and the guys will go in and we walk around and talk to each other. Like, we don't reach out like if anybody's here to speak to us. We're just observing and recording,
Yeah.
just walking around together like, hey, that cheeseburger today at lunch was good.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not provoking anything, and we're just seeing if any evidence shows up. And to my surprise, it has a couple times.
If you talk about food, sometimes the spirits will come out and say, "Oh, really? Was it that good, or would you have it with, or can I have some, or something like that?" Yeah, they'll really interact with you sometimes. You say, that cheeseburger was good. Oh, that pizza was really good too, you know. I like those
Like,
toppings that they had on that pizza. That was really good tonight for supper. Like stuff like that. Sometimes you'll get an interaction with it.
The
And and it's kind of like they'll say, was it that good? You know, can I have some or something like that?
I never understood why people provoke spirits. It doesn't mean you're gonna get more
No.
activity, because you're either gonna make it mad or it's either going to be like, I don't want to talk to you. If
mm-hmm.
you're
Yeah.
gonna be like this, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or could they do something totally negative to you, like
Yes.
scratch you or kick you or throw something at you, right?
Yeah.
That you don't want to happen, right?
Yeah. Or if
So,
it's evil or malevolent, you don't want to call that onto yourself.
Yeah.
no.
That's how I think about it. I had another encounter. As I was saying earlier, my best friend's mom used to tell us Bigfoot stories and some ghost stories. She could write her own book. Like, they're great,
Mm.
but they really happened to her. And in her house,
Okay.
I don't know what it is about the property, but I know they found like Native American stuff there before, arrowheads, and so maybe that has something to do with it. But like, they would go out of town on vacation, her and her husband, and I like the house set because they didn't want to leave their house unattended. So when we were like younger, teenagers, early 20s, they would say, "We're gonna go out of town. Will y'all just watch the house?" So like, me and my best friend would hang out there, and this one particular time, he had been there all day.
Hmm.
I got off of work and met up with him later. Well, I was going to stay in the corner room upstairs and was taking my bags up there. And when I got to the top of the steps, it was like, just like if a person walked right past your shoulder, right by your ear, and said something but kept moving. That's what happened to me. But the difference this time was whatever it said, I could not understand. It wasn't in English, but I heard it. And when that happened, I said, I was kind of loud because it surprised me, I guess. I was like, what was that? Or what, and he heard me downstairs and he was like, man, what are you doing up there?
Yeah.
I didn't want to ruin our weekend by scaring the crap out of us. So I said, oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about it. Well, Sunday, when we were going to leave the house, I finally came clean to tell him. I said, okay, well, you remember Friday when you heard me upstairs yell out? I said, well, it felt like somebody walked past me and spoke into my ear. I said, but I didn't want to tell you that and scare you. And he said, well, you're not going to believe me. He said, that same morning when I came to mom's house before they left on vacation, he was at like the kitchen counter talking to his stepdad and said he thought he felt his mom put her arms over his shoulder and lean on him. And he said, good morning, mom. And his stepdad looked at him and said, who are you talking to? Your mom's still asleep in the bed upstairs. So it happened to both of us on the same day, two different times, and neither one of us knew something happened to the other till like 2 days later. And that sticks with me. But it wasn't in English, so was it some like Native American language, or what did I hear?
Right.
But I felt it just like as if a person passed my shoulder. I didn't see anything. I just kind of felt and heard it.
That's what it usually is. You can feel and hear it, but you can't see it.
Hmm. Um, she did pass, didn't she?
Hmm.
Did she pass?
As
Af- did she die afterwards?
no, she's still alive. I talked to her this weekend,
That's weird.
but she tells me every time I talk to her, apparently she tells me how sensitive she is to, and I think she's in her 60s now, and she tells me about all these things that she can feel and that are in the house or she's witnessed in the yard. She saw a man in uh like 1800s period clothes out there standing, by the car one time. She sees and hears things, and Sasquatches come up to her yard and all that. And she's got actually vocalizations recorded that can't be. She sent it to, you know, expert audio people, and they can't identify. You know, it's not human.
Mm.
Uh, she's loaned those out to me.
So she's a sensitive.
Yeah, and her house is. If you go to her house, probably something's gonna happen to you. Like you will most likely witness. You're either if you don't, you're gonna have this spooky feeling on you the whole time. Like my brother will even say that. Like when we would spend the night, and he's younger than me. That when it got time to go to bed, he would not get up and go anywhere until daylight, until somebody else was awake in the house. It's just this feeling that's over there all the time.
It must be the land. It must be her that attracts whatever. It's like a magnet, right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It,
Probably her.
Yeah. Human magnet usually picks up certain things, or or they'll come to her because they'll know that she can see them or feel them. It's like, yeah, it's like me. I'm a magnet also, and crazy
it
stuff
could
will start happening.
it could also be a portal
Yeah.
open somewhere on that property too. That's
Yeah.
what I feel. That's my theory of the suicide forest here in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
It's not the whole entire forest has that reputation. Obviously, there's that part where there's even signs warning you, have a number to call if that's why you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like a heavy feeling when you walk in there. And Irene can even tell you if you walk into that part of the forest, trees will grow in crazy directions that they can't explain. Things don't grow, you don't hear birds, it's dead silence. But there's
Hmm.
another part of that same forest where people hike every day because it's the complete opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a beautiful hike. It is
Mm-hmm.
so serene, so peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it's almost two different forests in the same place.
Yes, that's how it is. Okay, so where I'm sitting right now, if I was to walk down here to the road, get on the little back road, I can walk to her house. She probably lives like 2 miles from me. There
Oh.
is a stretch of maybe a half a mile before you get to where she lives, and the woods are really thick. When you get there, it gets silent. And all the way to her house and past, like 9 times out of 10, when you go there, there's no sound in the woods. And they're thick woods, but it gets really quiet. So, yeah, it's kind of similar. Maybe, you know, maybe there is.
Maybe something similar there that attracts. Because, like I said, unfortunately, it just attracts that kind of energy to that place in the forest. And that's what, unfortunately, that's what happens. So I'm not sure if someone did a ritual to create the portal, if it opened on its own. I'm just not quite sure.
I
I
need to
haven't been that part yet.
I need to ask her because okay, when we were younger, I want to say they always told us there used to be a small house on that property that a woman lived in that people thought was kind of like a witch, and the place burnt down with her in it. It may not even be true. She may have just fabricated that on one of our drives down the road. I need to go back and check with her on that because they always used to tell us that. And there were old this area used to have old rail lines where they cut timber and hauled out, you know, timber to camps, and some of them was like prison labor. But all of this stuff is long gone, and it's all wooded now. There's no evidence, but it was there, you know. I well, some of it could still be found, like before they paved the roads when they were still dirt. If we walked them, you could still find like railroad spikes from where the rails used to be. But I need to.
Irene,
I need,
Irene, he was saying that there is stories where there was a witch lived in her house there on that property, but the house burned down with her. Now that's the stories he's heard, so he's not 100% sure if that's
yeah.
true.
I need to ask her about that because they told that story several times, and apparently they built this house on top of the old house place where it used to be, and maybe that's part of it.
When you were talking about it, right, I couldn't get back in again. It wouldn't let me back in again. So I couldn't get back in again. So I had to retry twice again to get back in. Finally, I got in again, but it didn't want me to hear what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So it cut me out automatically, and I couldn't get my mic. I couldn't get anything back. Yeah.
That
There's some.
happened. The last podcast I went on, that happened when I would try to tell the host about encounters. When I would get to like the main part of the story where the encounter happened, my feed would cut off. It
Yeah.
happened like three times, and then ultimately the guy had a second guest for the next hour, and his whole show just crashed, and he didn't get to finish. And they were like, "Man, every time you get to like the best part where something happens, you disappear." And they're like, "Maybe there's interference."
There is.
There is. And they just didn't want me to hear. They didn't want me to talk. They didn't want me to come in. They didn't want me to engage. It's just now I'm hearing interference. Yeah, I'm hearing interference. It's like a it's like a it's like a when you get a radio sound.
Mm-hmm.
It goes on and it comes away, goes away and it comes on again and goes away. Okay, what are we doing? Who are we talking to? There's an old woman. That might be that witch. She might be saying something. You can't talk about this. Like, leave it alone. She's saying, don't mess with it.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, we're not gonna bother you. We're not gonna say anything. We're not gonna hurt you. We're not gonna mess with you. We're not gonna be angry with you. We're not gonna be mean to you. We're gonna be the most respectful to you. Um, we're just talking here.
Yeah.
That's all. It's my cat's coming up too. He knows it. He feels it too. He was sleeping on my legs, and finally he came up and started walking all over my knees and started meowing. Now he's sitting right next to me because he knows it. He felt it. That's the most. He's saying, "Yeah, that's not very good. That's not a good energy." He's telling me. Mm, whatever it is, it's got rules.
That has to be the witch then.
Yeah, it's kind of freaky. But
Mm.
then I deal with freaky stuff all the time.
It is if you go over there.
Mm,
It's just feeling at all times.
mm.
But there's a I don't know. It's like an allure to it. Like it draws you back because it's also like a very comfortable, nice place to go visit. Uh, it's almost fun, I guess. I don't know. I like going over there, and I like talking and visiting them. And she just sees a lot. A lot happens there.
I think she makes it safe for you to go there. I think if she wasn't there, it would be unhappy or it'd be not right. But she makes it safe for you to go over there. That's why you can go over there.
Well, anytime anything has any kind of paranormal anything's happened around there, it's when she's not there.
There you go. So with her presence, it calms the spirits down. Without her there, it can be angry. It can be noisy. It can be like everything on top. Everything on top, right? Like Hoagie sounds like all the toppings, right? You get everything. Th-
Well,
That.
that's why that's another reason why I think I may just step away from real world stuff like that. So now I'm like, I've been in the process of also writing a book of little short horror stories, and that seems a
Mhm.
little more safe because I've always been interested in just creating things. So, maybe going into paranormal locations for documentary purpose may not be the thing, but sitting behind a computer screen and just typing down stories that are in my mind that, and I was going to do that. I had a friend who was trying to start, and I think he's still working on it. He was trying to do like his own podcast syndication thing, and he was like
Mhm.
two people short on gonna pull it off. So I don't want to do my own podcast. So what I was gonna do was audio stories.
Mhm.
I worked on like two of them and completed them,
Mhm.
and I was typing them out. I was gonna try to wing it or make notes. Well, I ended up just full out typing stories and reading it off the screen. So I was like, well, if I'm gonna go through the trouble of typing this up, I might as well make it into like a book. So
Mhm.
I also based every story so far in like the southern United States because if I'm going to read the audio with my voice, I, I wanted it to be as immersive, so I couldn't be in like Victorian England,
Mhm.
write a story and then you have my voice reading the story. So I've kept everything in the southeast United States so far. So
Mhm.
if I do choose to go back and read them aloud as audio, it's gonna make more sense to hear it that way.
It's not that you shouldn't do anything paranormal. It's not what it is. It's like you pick and choose what you do, right? You can
Hmm.
pick and choose where you go to. Um, there's dangerous places that are there where you are than there are where I am. Um, so you can pick and choose where you go to. There are there are a lot of unprovoked spirits more in the United States than they are in Japan. So it just read about it if you can find history about it. Read it like old certain buildings may not be so bad as going to a certain crazy place that you have notorious for having angry ones or being kind of like naughty, right? We call them naughty. Like jail cells can be naughty. Um, Old houses, you get your mixture of whatever. Okay, it can be really fun and interesting, and it can be really different. Depends on where you go to. Like some haunted houses can be not so bad
Hmm.
as an old jail cell or an old cemetery, right?
Yeah, and I've
Like
always enjoyed visiting cemeteries, and just being there. That never has bothered me, and there's sort of like a thing that draws. I guess some people are just interested or drawn to those certain locations, and I've
yeah,
always just like going into them. They seem peaceful to me.
yeah. So maybe that may be a better place for you, fit for you, than an a dangerous place, right? Because you have the calm of both energies, and you can go there and you don't feel anything. They don't feel threatened from you.
Yeah, well, I still have to work with the cigar smoking guy, but I haven't seen him in a few years.
You know what would be anything would be appeasing if you get one cigar, okay,
Hmm.
and wherever you smell him most, you leave. This is for you. I got you offering of a cigar for you. There you go. You can have this. You can smoke this if you want to, and he might be happy, right?
Hmm.
So it might not be so. Sometimes we find it threatening, but it may be more easy on him. So I said, "Oh, okay, thank you very much. Gee whiz, thank you for thinking about me and stuff like that might happen to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I have a I've never really shared this part of the story, um, but I'd had a dream about that location before the whole cigar, before the story had completely ever been put together. We were on vacation, and like I said, this is an old part of the plant. We don't even use it, but for some reason I was there. We were working at this part of the building, and in the dream, for some reason, I go to the top of the stairs because it goes downstairs, and I yelled from the upstairs down into the downstairs. And when I did, this guy rushes at me. And what I did notice from the dream, as the guy ran up the stairs toward me, his uniform, I saw the shirt was the light blue button up shirts that the city used to wear that had long since been. That was all I remember because when he ran at me, I snapped awake. It scared me,
Mm,
and that was before the cigar smoke. That was before the lady I worked with told me about the guy who used to sit out there.
mm-hmm.
And when you put those three factors together, it paints a whole picture, I think. But I never tell. That's probably the first time I've ever told that part of that because that really puts it in this. When you start dealing with dreams and all that, it goes into a whole different
Yeah.
personal, far fetched
Yeah.
in a way that a lot of people are not going to want to hear about.
Oh, he came to me. He said, I died of a heart attack. I guess I smoked too much. He said,
Yeah, maybe I need to
he
see.
was a he was a big, hefty guy. He was a big guy. He wasn't a small one. He had big shoulders and a big head and big body. So
Mm,
he was like he was a, he was big. Like he was bigger than you. Like real big, big, big,
mhm.
big as big, right? Yeah. And you think, come and visit me sometimes because I get lonely. I said, no, he's not gonna come and visit you. He's not. See, there goes static going on. I said, yeah, he's not going to come and visit you. He'll probably bring you a cigar if you want to, but that's about it, right? He goes, okay, I'll accept that. And he's smiling. He's smiling. He's in a happy place. He's not a dangerous spirit. He's in a happy place. So yeah,
That's one of my biggest fears is passing away and you're haunting your old workplace.
yeah.
That literally is mine because
Well,
Yeah.
I've heard
actually,
a few ghosts.
that's where he liked. He was the most happiest when he was working, and that's where he wanted to be, and he had most friends there, and it was his one of his happy place. So you got to understand that he's not really haunting it. It's just that was the most pleasant experience where he was, and he enjoyed being there, and he enjoyed going to work there.
Mm.
So he's not really haunting it. It's just where he liked to be.
Yeah, it's not a bad place to work. It sounds
Oh
like it because of it, being a wastewater treatment, but that's not bad at all to be there, really.
yeah.
It's a good job.
Yeah. And he really has no qualms about anything. He had a lot of friends there. I think I don't think he was married or anything. I think he was single, or he didn't have a family very much, and that was his family. So you have to really understand people are most happiest where they most loved, right? Or the most they had the most family. That was their family, and that was his family.
Unfortunately, work people usually become more like family to you than your actual family because you see them more than your actual family.
Mm.
Yeah, but he was
And that's
happy person. He was really happy, and he was a nice fellow. Actually, to tell you the truth, he was a nice guy. It's just weird when you hear things like that. You go, okay, now what? But it's what I do. It's my job, what I do, and I'm so used to it.
She does a lot of virtual investigations with the gift.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in Japan as a whole, though, it's not very widespread. It like it's like here where people are still riddled. Yeah, they'll like I'll go to work and people they've seen me on I'll share it on my social medias now, and they know I made a Bigfoot movie and all that. And every once in a while they make jokes. I'm not like it's more in a playful way though, not
hmm
being like bullied or something, but.
No.
They'll be like, "Oh, there's the Bigfoot guy," or "Hey, you seen any ghosts lately?" But it's still, I guess, something here that's not normal. Not everybody's kind of thing. But sometimes I find if you get people isolated where they're not around the crowd or other people, they'll be like, "Hey, one time." Uh, they'll tell you some ghost story or something that happened to them, or one time I think I saw a Bigfoot or something, but they just they're not going to be secure enough to let the other people hear it, and I don't care. I'm grown, and
Yeah.
it's not going to hurt my feelings one way.
No. Especially down south, you're around the Bible Belt, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So how do they perceive you doing this kind of work on your spare time?
The fact that I think it's the fact that I'm more of a investigator as far as documentary purposes, not a it's more for like it's a curiosity to me, and I'm trying to find answers more than it is something
hmm
that so I don't, because like I said, I would lean more skeptical anyway. And
hmm
it, it's not like I don't know, I don't know what I'm trying how I'm trying to explain that, but it's more like a fact based
hmm
approach
hmm
than a uh, spirits and ghosts kind of thing.
hmm
I actually called a house that made me think of this. I was trying to get material for the documentary, so I called this one historical house, and of course I won't name who it is,
hmm
and it's supposed to be very haunted.
Mm.
I called the
That's
guy who's, I guess, the caretaker, the manager of the office for the whatever house, and I started asking him one day, "Hey, can I rent the space to
mhm,
make a film to go in with some guys with cameras and audio devices, and just we're not going to disturb anything. We're not going to move anything around. We just want to go in and just basically make video footage for a film and just to see what happens." And the guy, I'm in a work truck away from everybody making this phone call, and he says, "Sir, we don't do ghosts and goblins here. This society is for strict historical purposes." And
mhm.
then I had this moment when I hung up where I'm reflecting that here I am calling around to these numbers, and I'm getting told by this other grown man that this isn't a place for ghosts and goblins.
It's
And
kind of weird because you are making a fact history moment, right? With
right,
that
exactly.
place. And I think the way you word it, you could change it. I'm doing it for history purposes.
Mm-hmm.
You could say something like that. And um it'll be interesting to see what kind of history things that come out of this place when
Yeah.
I'm doing this. So you could do it like that. You could word it like that.
Yeah,
And
but still, do what he's saying is him coming in with a ghost hunting equipment is usually
yeah.
people. they don't want that in their thing. So it's like there's a difference in you trying to go in there and talk about the history compared to
Yeah.
them you bringing in ghost hunting equipment to try to talk to them. Even if you're saying, "Oh, I'm trying to talk to them about the history of it," they're
Mm.
still gonna be like, "We don't mess with that."
Yeah, if you
And
pay,
it goes,
you can do a tour any day of the week, you know, historical, and they'll tour you around and you pay for it. But that's when I found the Drish house, though, and reached out to their owner, and she was like really cool. She's like, absolutely, yeah, there's ghosts here. Come do whatever you want. And so I don't need the other places anymore because I got that
No.
one. But
Yeah.
I was searching, and you know, I'd reached out to numerous places, and most of them are closed doors here.
Hmm.
Unless you're part of some society already that's well known, or you've written a book, or you're from the Travel Channel, you know. But if you're just
Yeah.
some guy who works at the city by day,
yeah.
uh,
Unfortunately, there's a lot of places that that it would be really good, but unless you have with Travel Channel,
yeah,
Yeah.
they're not gonna let you.
they're not just going to let some regular person with no fame or fortune go into this place and do anything. It's
That's
okay.
bad because because usually you start out that way with just yourself and your group going in there and documenting things. That's where it all starts out at the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not all these people who has fame and fortune really are not going to come down to earth and say things that they are, right, or where it really is. And they're just really down to earth people, and down to earth people is the most people that are most honest,
Mm.
right? So that's another thing that others have to really realize, that in order to get something, you have to have this honest to God person go in there and document whatever it is, other than the person who's from the fame and fortune uh, TV program, right?
Right.
So,
And I think the other thing I had slightly maybe working against me is if anybody asked me for references on my work, and I use Steve's Ridge, which is my movie, and but I would tell them don't judge that off of the content of what I'm trying to create now, because if you watch Steve's Ridge,
hmm
it's goofy. I mean, it is. It's poorly made. It was just a fun project, but it's not everybody's character is played out larger than life. The being a redneck is like exaggerated, and if you go into it being too serious,
yeah,
and it's not for everyone. I mean, it's not for. I've had a couple people who really like it, and there's some little kids. Kids enjoyed it, I guess, because it's clean. I don't make anything feel, you know, bad language or anything like that, um, but it's not for everyone. So that being my only reference of work, probably turned some people away from letting me into their establishment, because they're like, this guy's going to come in here and mock this or make a joke out of it or something. And I'm not. That's not what I was trying to do.
yeah. But it's sad because honest Joe would like to do something that's really interesting and make it interesting and make you interesting and make the place interesting, but then they want the big guys coming in and doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
It's really not where it really is.
Well, it's
And
because the more publicity wise,
yeah,
someone who's regular compared to someone on a show, obviously
yeah,
there'd be more publicity and people watching it
yeah.
with someone bigger.
Like
Yeah.
I'd rather have
The other,
the
the other
regular
thing
guy.
about Siege Ridge was I wasn't mocking. I know Zombie Media, they've listed it as a mockumentary. I wasn't making fun of Bigfoot witnesses. I was just Bigfoot, Sasquatch was just something I was heavily interested in because I enjoy it. I enjoy the topic, so I wanted to make my own video, which just so happens up until that point when I was making reels, most of them were either music or comedy. They were
Hmm.
skits of us,
Hmm.
me and my friend playing these characters who were having sightings or whatever, and it was
Hmm.
always goofy, you know.
You know, you live in an interesting area where you could put up hidden cameras,
Hmm.
like the ones motion cameras. You could do that
Oh
and
yeah,
Deer,
tied up to trees
deer
and
cams.
see what you can find. You
yeah.
know,
We've had a few around here, and I have a drone now, so I've been able to. I can fly up over the woods and go around and look, and
mm.
that's fun too.
Most of them come out at night, so you might want to do something at nighttime
Okay.
before you go to bed and hook something up and see what you can find, like night vision cameras and stuff like that. You can do that. You might find some interesting information that you could use and put in one of your documentaries to it.
Yeah. The
Or
only thing I got on my Bigfoot investigation that I did at night was coyotes. You can hear them howling, and then at the very end, my light battery went dead, and I barely caught one on camera running off. But as far as Bigfoot or anything or cats go, that wasn't it. But I did. There were coyotes out that night, so that was kind of cool.
you could put it a little bit higher, not more to the ground, but a little bit higher than that,
Yeah,
near the tree line. You might find something interesting. And if you do it often enough, they will come around. You might find something interesting that might come around. I'm getting a feeling that there are cryptids out where you are. There are Bigfoot out where you are. They're just hiding. You're just waiting for the moment
and
to
my
come.
neighbor says they. She claims that they come at certain times of the year,
Yeah,
and she
yeah,
said now is time.
yeah.
This is the time. There was a the people see a lot of like big black cats around here.
Mhm,
I found that out. I started to put the next documentary together, and people were messaging me saying, "Hey, I have one," and then I basically pinpointed that the majority of them happen all in the same square miles.
mm,
It's an area that may be 30 miles square, but I mean centralized to a big location for a big cat. That's pretty close.
mhm.
And
Yeah.
near high rocks and water, the places where you would think a predator cat would thrive.
Mhm.
Remote, very remote.
Mm. Yeah, it'd
So
be
is it like a
interesting.
real cat or like a spirit cat?
Like an actual like panther, cougar cat, flesh and blood on this.
Yeah, because you said that for some reason, I was thinking in Ireland they have the Hellfire Club, and it was supposed to be haunted by a giant cat spirit, and the surrounding buildings of that hill also reported a giant cat spirit haunting the haunted location or the the land around it.
Yeah, I think these are actual cats because there's a lot of deer and rabbits and stuff here. And I
Mhm.
talked to a lady in Maine who is a big cat expert, and she said they are very adaptive to any climate. Cold, warm, swamps, heavy forest, but they primarily like to eat deer,
Mhm.
and that's what we have a lot of. We have a lot of here.
So you have a lot of food source
A
for
lot,
them.
yeah. Lots of prey animals.
Yeah.
Not too
That,
many no big predators here. We don't have where I'm at is south enough where there's no bears. I mean, I think like an occasional black bear may migrate through. I've never saw one, but it's possible. But you don't see bears, so that would be unless there's a big cat. Maybe the largest predator here is a coyote. Coyote,
mm,
it's
mm,
no wolves.
yeah.
So your largest predator is the size of a dog, basically.
Okay.
Not far fetched to believe that a big cat could easily thrive here because obviously the next biggest predator is just hunters.
Mm.
Mhm.
and that's the seasons are regulated here. You only got so many weeks per season, so it's not like you could just shoot deer all through the year.
No, no, yeah, that's right.
Hmm.
There is a hunting season, and you have to have a license to go hunting
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And
Didn't
there
have a
are
license for
limits,
everything.
and how big the deer is, and how the limit that you can shoot is
Hmm.
out there too, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Same thing with fish, right?
With
yeah.
fish, yeah. There you have to have a fishing license.
And they limit what fish you can and how many you can get.
Not really here, not with the fish. It's most people like to go bass fishing, and I don't think there's a limit. I think ducks that's not a popular hunting here. But I mean, you can hunt them, but like turkey, a lot of people hunt turkey here, and there's rules and limits on that. Deer is the other big one,
Mm-hmm.
and you can only kill so many per day, and you can only
Mm-hmm.
those in certain times, and yeah, it's
Yeah,
regular.
yeah,
So the population, I mean, it's not like it's very, very common just to like on a commute to work to see an animal that's hit on the side of the road because there's so many.
yeah. It's called roadkill,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
a lot here. I don't know about Japan what you would typically see, or especially in a city, but uh, I mean Japan has some small deer, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have deer, but not so much down below, but more in the mountains. Um, yeah, they don't come down very much. Only in Hiroshima you'll find a lot of deer coming down in the islands, but we have a lot of raccoon dogs. It's like looks like a raccoon, but it's it's as
If they're more
bigger
related
than a
to
dog.
dogs.
Yeah,
Oh,
and they come down. They live in the bamboo forest. They eat small rodents and stuff like that. They eat small game.
so they're predatory then.
Yeah, and the cars go by in the city, their outskirts, and they get a lot of roadkill that one too. So yeah,
Yeah, we have a lot of regular just raccoons here too.
yeah,
Yeah.
Lots of them.
they're very rare.
So, what is the biggest predator that lives in Japan then on the island or as a whole?
Poisonous snake.
There's poisonous snakes.
Yeah,
There's
one.
also a lot of wild boar.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, we have one that lives on my street. Then unfortunately had babies, and I think one of those babies had another baby because I've seen another baby, and it
mm.
was the last fall is when I last seen the babies, and all of a sudden there's a new baby. So I'm thinking it either had another baby or one of the children had a baby.
They're more like pests because they
Same here.
yeah they attack children coming home from school or going to school. Especially in rural Japan, they're really a pain in the butt.
They are
That's
here
why.
too. They seem like they multiply quick and they're always in big numbers and
Yeah,
they root up and tear farmland up and
Yeah, they're
yeah, they're an
real.
animal here.
They're real problem. That's why people in the real area will have guns and they will shoot and eat them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean they're real pests. It's
they are.
it's
They'll
just some.
charge and growl at you.
Yeah, there's something you have to be careful to you because you get gorged in the leg,
Mm-hmm.
and they have been known to do something like that to children and to older adults that are going foraging in the forest to get herbs and edible plants, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah. It's just something that you find all over the place, right? Um, what is your most like? Wow, I gotta do this again. Thing that you have a wow moment.
A wow moment. Um, just in general, or with
Yeah,
spooky
anything.
stuff.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Uh, for me, it's going to be travel. I think. I like to travel, um, and there's a lot of places I still want to see, and there's places I've been I'd like to go back to.
That's interesting. Yeah.
That's how I feel about over here. 'Cause a lot of people ask me whenever we take a vacation if we're ever going to come back to the United States. And I was like, while I'm over here, I'd rather check out what's here, any other countries around, because it's so much easier for me to fly to like Bali or somewhere like that compared to back in the United States where it would be at least 2 to 3 day flight.
Hmm. Yeah, I liked like one year we went to stateside, went to Wyoming and Idaho, and I really liked it up there. I liked the cool, clean air, and it gets so hot here in the
Mhm.
summertime. It's about to get really hot and humid, and it's going to go all the way to like almost November. And I just like going to more comfortable locations, I guess. I've been to a lot of the states here, and then I went to Azores, Portugal when I was a teenager, and
Mm.
I've been to Dubai, but I would like to. Japan is on the list. I'd like to go to the UK and, England, Scotland, and over maybe in Ireland. Those places interest me. Romania, some of the Eastern Europe countries seem like they would be fun to visit. Mostly, I guess, because of, I don't know, some of the lore and legends there, some of the books.
Hmm. Just be careful when you come here. You don't want to get swamped, but
Oh, that'll be here next week.
for us, it's like July and August.
Oh yeah, yeah. July and
Be worse.
August are by far the worst here, but it's a little muggy out here now. I mean, I'm got a little sweat on me, and
It's starting to get that way here now.
it's
Yeah.
sad. I don't. I like springtime.
Hmm.
It's probably my favorite season, but it's a fine line there between getting hot and humid,
Hmm.
like it does in the South here. It's not. It's humid. It's not a dry heat.
No,
And Japan is Japan like that pretty
it
widespread. Other than
depends
mountains.
on where you go. If you go in the mountains, it's
Mm-hmm.
drier. If you go down where she is, it's wetter
Mm-hmm.
because they got the ocean there, right?
Right.
Um, for us, I'm near the Pacific Ocean, so it's humid, but it's not as wet as where she is.
Yeah. Yeah. I've looked up the climate there before. I was just curious, and I
Yeah,
thought I'd recall that being the case. I know my brother. He spent a good bit of time in Thailand as a missionary, and he said it was hot and humid there most of the year.
yeah,
And like their cold weather is like 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and they're wearing jackets and stuff. Where
yeah. It's freezing in the wintertime here. Like you get the humidity, even though it's dry, it's still wet.
it's a wet cold, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's freezing right to the bone. So you wear winter jackets, you wear sweaters, and you wear everything on top of it. Like I
Mm,
wear sweatshirts, I wear a t-shirt, and I wear a sweatshirt on top of it, and I wear a winter jacket on top of that because it's cold. For us, it's cold, right? It's just you're used to different weather.
Summertime, you definitely have to every day drain the dehumidifiers.
Yeah, it takes the water out of the air
And
'Cause
still, I don't feel like they still don't work enough either.
ours do. It depends on how big you have, how big ones you have. I have a pretty big one in my house, but yeah, because the floors get all sticky and wet, and
Yeah. Yeah. You just have to get used to just basically being soaked every day.
and a lot of cool showers, right?
Yeah.
It's just like that. Is there any freaky place that you want to go to, even after we talked about it, that you want to go back to?
I wouldn't mind going back to that Drish house again,
Mm,
neighbor's house. You know,
mm-hmm,
I may go over there and visit her at some point soon. Um, that's not anything on a grand scale. I don't really. I guess I don't have any destinations like some people are like
mm-hmm,
who are probably been on this show before would say I want to go to so and so sanitarium or
mm-hmm,
I wouldn't mind going back like to Salem, Massachusetts. I'm gonna try to go back there in the fall and maybe November to a conference that I've been invited to. I wouldn't mind seeing Savannah, Georgia. As
mm-hmm,
the state side goes, I'd like to go back out west, but it's not for really paranormal reasons so much.
mm-hmm.
Um, not a spooky site, I guess.
No, but the more you do things, the more you'll learn, right? And the
Right,
more you learn, the more you can take with you and say, okay, I know how this happened. I know how that happened. So I know what to do next time. So there are more things that you can learn as you go along, and just take it with you and mark it down in your booklet or mark it down in your head and you remember it, right?
right.
So
Experiences.
every experience is something that you could remember and use with you and take it with you. You say, okay, I know not to do this, I know not to do that, but I know what I can do this, and I know what I can do there. So every day is a little experience for you. And so, yeah, I
What
mean,
What about you? Like what kind of places do you like to go? Where would y'all go if you had a choice or to go back and visit? Is that something that interests you?
Suicide Forest interests me a lot. That I want to go back. I want to go and see for the first time. It's in the area where all these freaky things happen,
Yeah,
right?
I saw it on a T. I almost asked that when I first came on, but I didn't. I didn't really know if that was like a thing for sure there, just because I'd seen it on
It's
TV.
not a tourist thing. It's, you got to be careful, but I mean, you got to be really grounded to go there, right? You have to
Yeah,
have a good head level to go there. That
yeah,
I
because
would go.
they
That
said
I would
the
go.
suicide rate there was just
Yeah.
very uncommon.
On this side of Japan, it's pretty bad. After COVID, it got really bad.
Mm,
On that side, it's not so much as the older spirits or the tragic things that happen to the older spirits on her side, but on this side, it's more like freaky, scary stuff, right? That happened on this. So yeah, I mean,
That's what I'm saying. Different parts of Japan,
yeah, have
ghosts are
to,
different
yeah,
in different parts of Japan. It's
yeah,
like mine are different than hers, and then the northern they have even different kind of spirits up there, and it's so crazy.
yeah.
yeah.
It's more like haunted stuff is more in the northern part, and the freaky stuff comes on my side and her side. It's a mixture of both.
So, do you actively, either one of you, go and do research, or do you look for these things, or are there certain locations you visit on purpose?
You really can't
Most,
here because most haunted locations here in Japan they board up to the public,
yeah,
Oh,
and there's also not anywhere you can go for record keeping. Like there's if you want information on a property, there's no vital records. There's nothing. It's you have to ask someone around who may or may not know, hoping someone talks to you and knows the answer because there's no records. You
It,
can't go back and see who used to live here, how they died. It's not. You can't do that here.
yeah.
And people are not really that, I guess, open or receptive to do that, even if they do know. Probably that's just something they don't want to talk about. Would Is that true or
Older people will,
yeah?
like, you find people who are in their 80s, 70s, or 80s, they'll be able to talk to you. They'll freely talk to you. Uh, you have to ask in order to find out, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't ask, you don't get. So if you really get into the conversation with the older people, they'll open up and they'll talk to you, depending on who they are, right? But the word of mouth comes from older people. Younger people are really not into this kind of thing. And you might find a few that may be like a clairvoyant that will be interested and will talk to you, but it's got to be off camera because they got jobs and
Yeah.
they're not going to be able to come out public like what we're doing. So they won't do that. But the off camera, they will talk to you and they will speak about certain things. Um, it's just got to be done in more privacy situation. But we're the only ones that will come out and say things, and we're finding it that yeah, it's pretty hard.
What about this is not paranormal related at all. What is like the music culture like in Japan? Like what do people listen to now? Because at one time wasn't like hair metal and rock and roll like kind of a big thing there, or is
It
that
depends on which part of Japan you go to.
yeah?
Um,
Locals here, it's K-pop.
Okay.
yeah, and here it's like older people's music, and they got young people music too. It depends on which part of Tokyo you go to, where young people hang out. Do this? They like young people's music. But I'm gonna tell you one thing: at a child, they all watch paranormal um animation thing. All the kids watch in Japan. They all grow up with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they
The
all are
anime,
used to it. Yeah, they're all used to it.
I
Like
know
all
what you
mangas, mostly paranormal.
Yeah.
Tokyo
Okay.
Ghost, I think.
Yeah, and they all watch it as children, and they all grow up with it because it's a part of their history in this country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a couple of them. They're quite scary, but the kids really love it.
Yes, my brother is a teacher and he teaches history and he's told me uh he does myths and legends. Of course, history. It's going to be worldwide. And he said Japan to him. He said Japan has some very scary stories. So
Hmm.
undoubtedly, in his classes, they must cover Japanese history too. And he
Yeah,
said some of the legends of Japan are very creepy.
freaky,
There's
creepy, and yeah, all
there's
the above.
thousands of them too.
Yeah,
Thousands.
yeah, and um, I think Amanda and I, we do sometimes a freaky, creepy moment for an hour or so. We just have to get more material. We just have to study more material to get at it. But yeah, we do freaky, creepy things, cryptids once in a while. We talk about it once in a while, just the two of us.
Yeah.
But there are some stuff that, yeah, it's really freaky, creepy, hinky, winky, crazy, crazy stuff. Yeah, but kids all know about it, right? Even young kids, even now, they know about it. They grew up with it. They hear stuff. They they read books that have legends of freaky, creepy things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and the comic books all have freaky, creepy, hinky, winky stuff with it too, right?
Yeah.
So they're it's something that I don't know. It's part of culture. I don't know, but yeah, it's all they're all familiar with it, right? Even even the television programs, they have kids network here, and it's kids station network, and by about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, you get the paranormal children's programs coming on.
Hmm.
And it's kind of creepy things, but they made a movie and they made all kinds of things like that. And yeah, it's something. It's just a part of life.
So it's something there's a heavy exposure to culturally, but it's like a taboo thing to actually seek out or participate in, right? Is
Right.
Yeah, it's just something that's part of life here,
mm-hmm.
and everyone lives by it. It's just everyone's so used to it. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
There is supposed to be a second haunted forest, but the reason why it's not
Hmm.
as well known is it's supposed to be haunted by a samurai, but
Hmm.
they completely fenced it off, so you can't enter because they made it so no one can enter even if they wanted to. Because they're
Mm,
just like, we're not gonna mess with that samurai. It's just we're just gonna board it off so no one can go in there. You can't find out for yourself. There's supposed to be like a shrine next to it too, so you can visit that. But
yeah.
they won't let you in the actual forest.
So it's fenced off not because of like private property or a government building. It's fenced off on account of the samurai.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what they
Some
said is we're gonna leave him in peace. We're gonna block off his land. You can't enter it, and we're gonna that's how he's gonna be left alone.
some of them are really nasty, right? You get your nasty ones come out. You get your bad ones come out. And so if it's nasty or bad, they don't want anybody getting hurt. That's why they do it. Because yeah, you don't want to go in there. No matter how good you are, no matter what kind of paranormal experience you have, they don't want you getting hurt. That's why. And something can be really bad, and something can be really interesting, but they're benevolent, but they're not as nasty as the ones that are fenced in. So they don't want anything horrible happening to you, right? Because you could lose your life too with some of them. So you got to be careful who you pick and choose and where you go to. That's why we're here to educate people about certain places that you really don't want to go to if you're a greenie, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to be careful, and certain spirits may attack, may not, but you got to be extremely vigilant of where you go and what you see, and how far do you go into that land, and what you do in that land. It's just like, mm-mm. Like I would say, if you want to go to suicide, okay, forest, okay, I'll take you there, but it's my rules.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta
I think
buy.
that's the one. I think that's the only place in Japan that's supposed to be haunted that's not boarded up to the public.
Yeah, but I mean, you gotta be respectful no matter where you go, right? Any haunted place, you gotta be respectful, especially that particular place. You gotta be careful because they will take you if you're not vigilant, or if you're gonna be nonchalant about it. Yeah, don't be
Yeah.
nonchalant about it, right? Check your energy before you go in there. Make sure you're good enough to go in there, and then you can go in there and see what investigate what you can get. But uh there's a limit as to how far you go in, and how far you kind of like, if you curiosity kills a cat, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
There's a
Don't.
rule. There's the unwritten rule too there that don't follow a string because you're not gonna like what you find.
Yeah, and just be like, there are places that I would go, but I won't go without Amanda, or I wouldn't go without a person that's walking to my back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's how I was about the
yeah.
cemeteries in the old houses. I'll walk around in the woods for cryptid purposes all day long, but when it comes to the spiritual world, I need somebody with me. I don't want to do that alone.
No, And it's very unsafe to go alone.
And I'm not easily scared, but I just know there's more. There's an element to that. There's more to
Yeah, yeah, there is. There's always more to it. And you don't want to have a surprise come home with you, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have thousands of urban legend cryptids here. But unfortunately, because we don't have anyone willing to study it, sometimes when you do look into that, it might have like one or two pieces of information on it, and that's it.
Hmm.
Mm.
You can't find anything else in regards to it because people are like, I'm not gonna go find out.
Hmm. Stuff that I learned, it's usually from my mother, or stuff that she learned is from her mother, and it passes down to generations as you're growing as you're a child. And my kids know about certain urban legends too, and they'll tell me about certain places. And
Hmm.
yeah, and so kids learn them very young, and it's not like another kid from another place that says, "Oh, that's too scary. We can't do that. You don't want to tell me about that." They'll say, "Oh yeah, where? Like, what is it about?" Like, they're really interested in learning about it, right? And they say, "Oh, okay. Where is that on a map?" And they'll look on a map and say, "Oh, it's over there. Okay, that's interesting." Like, what do they find there? Or what is the choice for being in that area? That's what kids are here like that, right?
Yeah, we did a little bit of that. Um, when I was late teens, early 20s, there's an old like mental hospital here
Mm-hmm.
that's abandoned, and for a thrill, everybody goes out there. But we got comfortable out there. Like we would go out there and just like walk around and look at stuff, and then hang out and talk afterwards. Or we, unfortunately, for some people, we were bored and would hide. There. We would hide in there in the dark and wait for other people to come in the door, and we'd slam a door or slide a rock across the floor and watch them run away, And I've recently gone back to that place
Mm-hmm.
because I think a private company's bought it and they're about to demolish everything. But
Oh,
it's
that's so
it,
sad.
yeah, it's fallen in and the roof's gone. It's dilapidated and it's about to not be there anymore probably. So I've driven in there recently and gotten like some video footage of it while the gate was open because it does have a gate, and we would, it's kind of like a place everybody would go. It's well known around a long way around here. People come from far off just to go in that place, or they used to, not anymore, I bet. But
Mm, yeah.
15, maybe 15, 20 years ago, it was like the place to go for a thrill.
Mm. They used to have an old, really cool old hospital that was supposed to be extremely haunted, right? But young kids used to spray paint and went over it and started messing with it, and it got so bad that they had to tear it down. And it was the most best haunted house, best haunted hospital ever, and everyone knew about it. And yeah, it's kind of sad when you see that, right?
Yeah.
It was a good place, and um the most paranormal people would love to go to that hospital, right? It's nowhere where I am. It's near the Pacific Ocean, on the other side of the Pacific Ocean. But it was one of the best haunted hospitals ever. And freaky stuff happened there, and there was a lot of spirits there. I don't know what happened to it afterwards, but yeah. I mean, I don't know what they built afterwards, but I tell you, whatever they build afterwards is gonna be haunted too. So,
Oh yeah.
so yeah, stink, right?
I'm trying to move where I can turn on a light because it's getting dark here.
It's okay. Go ahead. Come on, behave yourself. Don't be a naughty kitty cat. He's getting upset for some reason. He doesn't like the subject matter, I guess.
Yeah,
You're
never does.
getting you're getting bitten. I could see him slapping himself, getting rid of those mosquitoes.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that would happen.
getting eaten alive out there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, there's a lot of mosquitoes landing on me, but it had gotten kind of dark, so I was trying to.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
There.
That's better.
UFOs is something I wish I knew more of, and Irene can also tell you in Japan, I think we mostly see UFO activity is after an earthquake.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It
And
has
they
to be
do
a
happen
bad
here
one.
once a we do have a few here once a year, so it's not.
It's more where I am. Um, I live in Earthquake Alley, so it, it wrecked my wall one time, and yeah, we had to get that fixed. But I mean, every time it's an earthquake, it has to, not the little ones, but the big ones. When it gets big, when property gets destroyed or something gets destroyed, people would look at the sky
And
and
so
they like they like the they like the power plants or the nuclear power plants that we have here. They like those too. So you'll see a UFO hovering around the power plants, or they'll go where the most bad damaged area is. They'll see a lot of them in the air there too. So that's what they like the most. And you're wondering, why are they around when it's a bad earthquake? What is it with them that
that
likes them?
that almost goes into like conspiracy theory territory too,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Yeah,
a way.
But every time it's a
I,
bad earthquake, there's always a UFO sighting.
I've almost, in some ways, strongly started to lean toward the UFOs, and not so much bright. Some people see spheres of light and orbs, but mechanical UFOs themselves, I've almost, man, I don't even want to say it live, but it seems governmental to me sometimes. Like it's a
that's
top
one of the
secret.
theories.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's one I lean towards. Is it's just some technology that
yeah.
the
But
United
I
States
belong. Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
or
know a lot of
belong
world
to
people.
government,
weird. Yeah,
I
I
know a lot
belong
of
to.
and they
people.
use.
Go ahead.
I know a lot of people in the Air Force will also say like they've never seen anything like it, but it might be like you're saying a secret government property where you have to have this amount of clearance to even know about it.
Right.
Yeah, I belong to a really weird group. It's a Japanese group. This man opened up a UFO group, and if you understand it, I'll add your name. He's got pictures of all kinds of crazy stuff in the sky, and
Okay.
it's mostly around local around here. So you might want to use that. It's open. It's a it's not a private group. It's an open group. It's a public group. Anyone can join. But you could download his pictures, and there's parts that are really freaky, and they're wondering what is that in that sky, and it's mostly locally in around Japan, right? So it's just a little bit different. It's a different kind of group, and they don't ask questions. They're very respectful. They don't ask questions, or they don't say anything like, "Nah, that's fake," or they don't do that, right? They said, "Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, where's that from, or what area is that from in Japan?" That's the questions that they answer. You might not be able to understand the language, but you could understand, but you could see the photographs that are really cool. That's what I do. That's what I belong to. And that's why I think it's really interesting. And he's the only person in the whole part of Japan will open up a group like that. So it's a start, right? It's a start. Everyone's got to start someplace. I think he froze.
He froze.
It made me think where my mom is from in Portugal. There was a spot up in the mountains where the grass wouldn't grow; it was burned away and it was dirt. And they said,
Mhm.
like sometime in like the '60s or whatever, a
Mhm.
UFO had hovered there and burned it up, and the
Mhm.
man who was tending to his animals saw it, and it kind of drove him crazy. But then I put another piece together that the U.S. has an Air Force base there, or they
Oh.
did. So there you go with that, you know, in the same location. And then, yeah, I don't know. I've seen uh, nothing too wild, but like in some military service with the Navy that I had, I
Yeah.
witnessed a couple of technologies you don't, nothing, it wouldn't be top secret if I said it, but it's just stuff I was like, oh, I didn't know we had this.
There
Or,
are a lot of places here where there's rocks that are levitated, and they don't know why. There's no base to it, but there's a lot of things that are, they call it urban legends, but there's a lot of places here that there's no answer to what happened, right?
mm-hmm,
And there's a lot of places here that have really weird, freaky things that you could ask 1,000 scientists, and 100 scientists will give you the most dumbest answers, and the other ones will say, "We don't know. We can't give you the answer to it." But there are really interesting things that happens around here.
you can see the actual rocks levitate.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, they're above ground, and they don't know why.
It's
And
almost
if
like sort of
yeah, and if you ask the
sort of
scientists, and,
metals, and it's an electromagnetic
yeah,
type
yeah,
something.
and if you ask the scientists, some of them say, there's an answer for everything, right? But they'll give you the most dumbest answer, and they say, "Hey, hold on a second. Your answer may not be right because you're mostly academically in the book, right? Where most 90% of the population is right, right? If it's not written there, they don't believe it, right? But if it's out of this world, if you can't touch it, feel it, see it, you don't believe it.
Yeah.
So the more educated, the more analytical you become, the less you believe on the other freaky side of stuff, right? Because a lot of freaky stuff in this country that nobody wants to talk about, because if you talk about it, it's like you're in the
Mm.
head, right? Or that's too hoo hoo to me to even believe. But there are a lot of strange places in this part, and it's in some of them are in the forest, some of them are near the body of water, some they don't. There's no answer to it. Nobody could answer it, so they just leave it as that. That's what it's all about here.
There is another theory that some people have. You have to believe in the core Earth conspiracy, though,
Mm.
where some people believe that some of the UFOs seen, it's not from outer space, but from like the core Earth.
Right.
Yeah,
And that would also go with, you have a big earthquake, and maybe that's why you start seeing them as they're from core Earth. That's just one theory.
yeah.
That's what my mind started to go there when you said they were seen after earthquakes, because I was thinking more about
Core
coming
Earth.
from the ocean or some yeah, or underground locations. I read a book one time, and the guy had claimed that he saw the UFOs coming from the ocean, not from
Mhm.
the
We've
sky,
heard that too.
Mhm. Yeah.
or deep underground bases somewhere.
Mhm. We have our own Bermuda Triangle too, where a lot of fishing vessels come up empty.
Mm.
They're they're floating in the ocean, but when the police go and bring them ashore, there's nobody in it.
Oh, that's creepy.
It's completely empty. And they come from Korea, they come from China, they come from all over the place, and they're just floating in the Pacific Ocean. They don't know what the heck happened to them, and there's no answer. So if they have to make a report, they'll say unknown.
Yeah, the ocean is scary enough on its own, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's why people
Yeah,
said NASA originally was studying the ocean, and they're like, "What do you think they found that made them all of a sudden stop
yeah,
investigating the ocean and go to outer space?"
yeah. Or they think that there's a hollow entrance past Antarctica somewhere. I've
I've heard this.
read and listened to stuff about that too, and
Yeah.
that's no one goes there.
Yeah.
I think that's why only scientists are allowed up there.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. But the thing is that the fishing vessels that are come empty, the boats are not damaged, right?
I was gonna ask that. Was there any kind of damage? So no damage, just people are just gone.
Yeah. And it's just weird as can be.
Hmm.
And they just come up empty. And fishing vessels usually don't have one or two people. They usually have a crew, right?
True,
Yeah.
right?
But yeah, there's nothing there in it. And there are tons of them that come up that they bring ashore and they try to find out what happened, and they can't. They can't give an answer. So they just say what happened. And the people who the country that they belong to, they tell the government, and but they said what happened. They said, I don't know. I'm like, we don't know. So there's a big question mark there. So yeah, it's freaky. And you wonder what else is there on the sun that's freaky, right?
Oh yeah.
That's also supposed to be one of the conspiracy theories of the Bermuda Triangle. Because some people say they thought they seen spaceships fly out of that too. So maybe that's also what's causing the issues in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah, but it's just the electromagnetic field is like you can find it all over the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably more around that we don't know, and who's gonna study it, right?
Yeah, could be
Well, I
portals.
mean,
That's another theory.
Yeah,
yeah. That's also a theory with like Bigfoot is he's interdimensional and he jumps through portals. So that's why you'll see him, but you can never find him as he jumped through a portal.
yeah,
Or why he never. I've heard people explain that as to why he never takes damage from point blank shots, and,
yeah,
from rifles and stuff, and can keep moving.
yeah. And apparently they have families too. They have children. They have a wife and they have a husband. They have children too. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It's so weird to think of them growing up. I mean, it makes sense, but it's so weird because the one in Japan is supposed to be 5 foot tall, and then when you say that to a Bigfoot expert, they say, "Well, that sounds like an adolescent." So they might have kept seeing adolescent ones. But the ones here in Japan, I mean, besides being like 5 foot tall, they smell like rotten flesh,
Mm-hmm.
and their foot is supposed to be like 10 inches long and 6 inches wide.
yeah,
It's kind of like here, though. I've watched certain documentaries or whatever, and they'll sometimes it seems like the ones down in Florida, like the skunk apes, are not supposed to be that bulky or tall. It's like seems like the range, the Pacific Northwest, those tend to be the largest and the
mm,
broadest shoulders, and then when you get like to Arkansas or Florida and the swamps and the marshes, they describe them like they're thinner or shorter or gangly,
mhm,
like there's different, like they're
mhm,
people, but like different sized people or
yeah.
different groups.
Yeah. Have you ever watched the movie The Meg?
The Meg?
Yeah, about the megalodon.
Oh no, I haven't.
How it starts off is in the very beginning, how the Meg finally came up to here is science. There's supposed to be like some kind of border down in the ocean that didn't allow sea life to go through. They finally poked a hole to see what's down there, and they saw things like megalodons, things down there. So that's when they brought their equipment back. Well, because they created a hole, that's where the Meg found its way up. And it's like that's actually a theory before I saw that movie that I've actually heard of, where people say there is something down there. There's like a barrier down there, so they there could still be sea creatures down there, but that might be underneath that border.
They're down, thriving, but beneath like a certain pressure level.
Yeah,
That's
there's
creepy.
like a wall of something where it's harder for them to get through.
Yeah, I never really watched the shark movies. They're kind of scary, to me. But
Probably because it's more realistic than
uh,
ghost movies.
yeah, and I actually go to the ocean at usually about once a year and get in, and I don't like to think about.
I don't either, and that's why people say if you ever own a drone and you go to the beach, don't fly it
Uh,
out towards the water and back, because you'll see, and someone showed it where you'll see like a ton of sharks out there, and then there's people swimming over there, and they're like, you can't, because you don't see them, you don't know there's a lot of them just right over there.
yeah, just feet
Like
away.
if you,
Yeah.
yeah, they're like, so if you want to keep swimming, don't look farther.
Yeah, it's like every year if we go to like the beach or something, I'll say, well, I'm not gonna get in the ocean. I'm not getting in. And like it never fails. Like I end up going in.
I love going to the ocean. I love going swimming in the ocean. It's just something we do.
Well, y'all have the Pacific too, and that's
Yeah,
seems
they have nets,
a little
and
more
Amanda,
expensive.
they have nets too out in the ocean, so you don't get chomped on. But you get hit with the jellyfish more than the shark. So
Hmm.
they're kind of dangerous. Like they're pests too.
Yeah.
They come up in August. I think the end of July and beginning of August. So yeah, you have to watch them. 'Cause they got bad stingers.
Yeah.
Amanda, if you want to do it, I have to go. I have to do something right now.
Okay, we can go ahead. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much for joining us. We'll definitely have to have you on another time.
Okay. Yeah, I really enjoyed. Yeah, I've got to get
We
my kids ready for school.
Okay.
we enjoyed having you, and everyone who joined in or watching later, thank you so much for joining us too, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.